I am a semi-professional race car driver. Meaning I've never done it a day in my life. But Chaz here has. So I've always been too scared to drift my car. I know a lot of people are that way. Mostly it's because Squeak's here, which is what I call my Corvette. The tires are like, I spent $1,500 on a set of tires. Ain't no way I'm tearing those up. I'm sorry, like it's just not happening. Chaz here's got a sweet Nissan 300ZX, all cambered out. And how much do you pay for your tires? You get them cheap, don't you?
Let's see. Last time I was in, I paid $120 for 2 tires.
Mounted?
Mounted, ready to go.
Okay, so he's got the drift car. So I was like, okay, let's, Chaz, why don't you teach the people of the interweb how to do donuts? The Nissan's a manual transmission. It's a little bit different. It's a little harder in a manual, right?
Actually,
what do you think?
I think it's easier in a manual. Once you know how to drive a manual, it's a lot easier. Basically, it's very simple. You just rev up the vehicle, whatever vehicle you have, preferably rear-wheel drive, and just dump the clutch out. And obviously, you want to steer and then get that sideways motion going. And once you're sideways, you just want to counter steer a little bit. And it's pretty simple once you get the hang of it.
What do you mean dump the clutch, though?
So dump the clutch, basically, you have the clutch down. I gotta go with my hands. You have the clutch down, and you just let it off. Just let it off. Because when you start out, normally, because
you're starting in first gear.
You want to be in first gear to start. And, you know, normally when you start, you just kind of, you're easy with the clutch. You just kind of want to get it rolling. You let it out, and you go from there, shift in with the clutch. But when you really want to get those tires spinning, you want to rev the car up. You know, for my car specifically, I'd go up to 4,000 or 5,000 RPMs and literally just take my foot right off the clutch. And that way the engine grabs the clutch and spins those rear tires, and you can start
because you're trying to lose traction. That's the whole point, right? So like when you start, the reason you're dumping the clutch, which means you're revving it up to about what, like 75% of red line, right?
Yeah, right around there, yeah.
It's like 75% of red line, and then you're dumping the clutch, meaning you're putting the car in gear so that the wheels are going to start spinning so fast that they don't get traction. They just start spinning. Like you're still going to move forward, but you're not going to move forward like you normally would when you drive. So like right here, when you're pulling up to the stop sign, like you're in first gear, you're revving it up to about 75% of red line, right? And then dumping the clutch, putting it in gear, and then you're just going to start turning. Like for that first turn, how much are you turning? Like out of... like what? Because you can get like 2 full turns of the wheel till you're at lock, right?
Yeah, every car is different. Some cars have more, you know, turn of the wheels, you know, till lock. But you know, for me, it's probably, you know, a turn and a half, 2 turns, and then you just really let it rip. And then once you feel the car to break loose, you just kind of let the wheel go back to straight, and depending on how sideways you just want to counter steer. It's like
so that you stop the rate of turn, right?
Yeah, it's like Doc said in cars. You know, you want to turn right to go left. Is actually a true statement when you're sideways.
Because you're talking about, so like after you've started your first turn, and you know your rear is sliding out proportionately more than your front. You need to turn to the right to stop turning left.
Exactly, or vice versa.
And then keep the right turn in there if you want to start going the other way.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So if you want to transition your car to go slide the other way, you really crank the wheel as much as you need to, and soon enough the rear end will kick around the other way. And then same thing when you start out, you let the wheel go, and then let it kind of recenter, and sometimes it'll even go over center, so you just really want to know your car. And
because like the thing I'm scared of is like oversteer, right? Because isn't oversteer's more like likely on that when you're transitioning, right? So like how, because like obviously I don't want to smack a curb, right?
Exactly.
So like how should like my first couple ones go until I get used to the car? Like how should I approach it to minimize oversteer?
Really, what I would start out, well, I've been doing this since I got my license, when I was 16. So, you know, I was raised, you know how I was raised.
He's basically a semi-professional race car driver.
Basically. But, you know, I would start with just doing a simple burnout just to get the feel and all of your senses really in tune with your car. just to
Not having
see what it takes to break the rear tires loose.
Yeah.
Whether you're in a manual or an automatic car, it's going to be different. Just because of the way you move your feet and the way you're moving your hands.
So if you have an automatic, should I just be doing this in drive, or like sequential gearing is on an automatic, how you can like manually, you can go out of auto and you can manually select your gears. It's not really recommended for like daily driving. It's more for like when you're going down a grade, you can downshift. But like, so should I be using sequential gearing? Should I manually shift to first?
Yes.
Okay.
If your car has that option, I would definitely put it down into first, or put it, if you have the plus and minus, you want to minus it all the way until you're in first gear.
Right.
That way you have the most torque and you're going to be able to break the rear tires.
And then like, if you know how to drive a manual or you get the concept, you should be taking your foot off the gas before you apply that clutch to get into second gear. But on sequential gearing in an auto, you can leave your foot in, can't you? On the gas, you can just click it up to second.
Yeah, so that's the issue with having an automatic car is some, like I have a 2007 Chrysler 300, and it's the SRT8, so it has a big 6.1 liter V8 engine, and it automatically, even though I'm in that sequential shift mode, it'll automatically shift the gears for me.
Oh, shoot.
And basically middle of doing a donut or whatever I'm hooning around, it'll just upshift and I'll lose the momentum I need to keep the rear tires going.
That's why we're taking this one out usually, huh?
Yes.
And the tires are cheaper.
And the tires are a lot cheaper. But the Chrysler, having the V8, it just has plenty of power. It's rear wheel drive, just same as this car. Right. And it has plenty of power to spin the wheels, but just that transmission shifts automatically. And that's the trouble I have with most automatic cars. Even before I had both of these cars, my first car was a 2008 BMW 328i, just the naturally aspirated 6-cylinder with an automatic transmission, and I had a lot of fun in that car. I was doing donuts quite often, and it was a lot of fun. It rarely shifted for me, but on occasion it would, and it was annoying. That's basically what I take away from doing drifting or donuts in an automatic. You're going to be having issues.
Yeah. Luckily, I don't have that problem.
Unfortunately,
I've got the 4-speed auto in this car. I don't have the 6-speed manual. I like it for dailying though, because this is my daily right now, and so the auto is nice. But
it is nice.
Yeah, it doesn't shift for me. So, like, if you have front wheel drive, can you drift? Like, because obviously you've seen those videos of like kids putting like McDonald's trays under the rear tires, but like, what?
So in front wheel, if you have a front wheel drive vehicle, my advice would be to sell it and get a rear wheel drive vehicle.
He's not wrong.
But if you want to drift with a front wheel drive vehicle, that literally probably is your best bet. Is putting some pizza the food trays underneath the rear tires and yanking the e-brake up.
But the likelihood of spinning out and hitting a curb or something.
Is way higher. Way higher, because you have zero control of what the rear end is doing.
Right.
And it's just if you have a front wheel drive vehicle, I would advise you not to try and drift it.
Yeah. Right.
Or do any weird movements with it, with especially food trays underneath the rear tires.
And like sending one of those out like a rocket ship to your friend who's filming. That would suck.
Hit him right in the freaking teeth.
So obviously the biggest worries, the reason people don't drift their cars, other than the money factor, is like damaging the car.
Yep.
Hitting a curb or something like that.
Yep.
And I've heard some people say they're afraid of rolling over. You are not going to be able to roll over your car while doing donuts.
So if you have a car, like any type of car, like sedan, you're not going to roll over unless you literally send yourself into a curb at a super high rate of speed.
Yeah.
And even then, I've seen cars hit curbs at very high rates of speed and not roll over. Granted, they did go up on that one side, but they would come back down. And you can search it all over the internet. I mean, you'll find videos of drifting fails all over the internet, and you can tell which cars will tip and which won't. If you have an SUV or a truck or anything high off the ground, I would recommend going and doing it in the dirt.
Why though?
Just because the surface, it breaks free. The surface breaks free underneath the tires, and
so it does a little of that work for you.
It does
to lose traction.
Yeah, and if say that sidewall bite, that's a whole nother aspect of drifting. So you have, on a big car, you have big sidewalls on your tires. And what happens is that tire will roll over, and literally sometimes it will come off the bead. And what the bead is, if you don't know, is what sits on the actual rim. The tire is sitting on the actual rim. There's no fasteners or glue or really anything.
It's just air pressure holding
It's just
on.
air pressure. So if that tire rolls underneath the rim and loses the bead, your wheel's going to hit the asphalt, and it could potentially cause you to flip because it's going to dig in, and you might flip onto the side.
And your tire could blow if it loses that pressure.
It could blow, and you'll be out of a tire.
Yeah,
And
think of tires like suction cups. Like, you know how if you peel the corner of a suction cup barely, like it completely comes undone? That's how you see like delamination or things like that on the freeway. Well, that's a little different, I guess. But like that's why you can't, if you provide too much, if the tire's facing this way, it's round like this. If you provide too much sideways pressure, all that's holding on that tire is the little lips of the rim that are holding it in there and the air pressure itself. We don't have tubes like on bikes. So if that, moves just enough to get out of air pressure, then that's how your tire blows. Or it just goes immediately flat. But, you'd have to do some serious, like...
Yeah, and, it's not easy to de-bead your tire. And, especially if you have a bigger vehicle, and there are things called beadlock tires, which is a whole different type of, wheel setup. It actually does pinch the sidewall of the tire into the wheel, which makes it...
And that's what like drift cars use, right? Like for competition?
No, drift cars actually don't use a beadlock tire,
Really? Okay.
just because it's not serviceable.
I see.
It is serviceable, but it's not worth the time to use a beadlock for how many times they actually de-bead the tires.
Because getting it off would take so much
Really,
time.
the only times you see a tire de-bead is if you go over like a curb or something, because in drifting they're using a pretty low profile tire compared to, like I was saying,
low
an SUV
profile
or a
means
truck.
that sidewall is thinner.
Yes.
So the actual length of the tire, like the width, is thinner.
So, and like I was saying earlier, going through some dirt, like me and my buddy Landon, he had the F-150 in high school, and we would go out to a dirt lot and we would just tear it up, man. And it was honestly equally, or if not more fun than drifting on asphalt, just because of how loose that surface is. You can just really huck it, and you don't have to worry too much about tipping. A good thing to do is kind of scout out the area you're going to be doing donuts or drifting in. You want to look for big potholes. You want to look for any weird curbs, or like if you're in the dirt, you want to look for big ruts, or same thing, potholes. Anything that could really catch your tire and potentially break something. Or even worse, flip your vehicle if you have a higher sitting vehicle. But another thing is just coming to mind, things you want to be like, that I think of is your footwear. Like I'm wearing these very low profile Vans, so I can really feel the pedals. You don't want to be wearing boots like AJ's wearing. It is doable, but it's not going to be as comfortable. You're not going to be able to be as agile on the pedal.
Barefoot?
Yeah. Barefoot, I could drive barefoot. Some people, I personally don't like driving barefoot. I don't know why. I've heard tons of people say they love it. I just don't like it that much.
Right.
I don't know why. It's just
because I fly barefoot for like the same reason. Like I can, especially like the Champ I have. You don't really need it in like most modern airplanes, but the Champ I fly has heel brakes. So I've got my rudder pedal, it's literally the width of my finger like this, and then my brake is down here. On most airplanes, you have this pedal that's about the size of my hand, and you push it back and forth, and then you tip forward for brakes. But me, I actually have to my foot is at an angle like this. So I'm pushing with my heel on the brake and I'm on the ground, and then I'm pushing with my toes and the rudder. So barefoot is easier for me. If you've ever noticed, if you've ever watched like Formula Drift, most of the guys, they have driving shoes, and driving shoes look very similar to climbing shoes, like indoor rock climbing shoes. They're not as stiff, but they're basically just like a piece of leather like wrapped around your foot. It's very loose. It's just like something. Mainly they can't go barefoot because if they crash and have a fire, they need to be able to exit the vehicle with shoes on. Otherwise, they'd probably most of them go barefoot.
Yeah, barefoot or in their socks or something.
Right, but really the fire hazard.
Yeah, and you said loose. They're actually very tight. I know.
They are tight. Okay.
They are very tight on your foot, just so it's basically like you're driving without shoes.
Right, but they're not like pinched like the climbing shoes are, because they're like pinched on the.
And for me personally, I don't necessarily plan to go out drifting. I don't think about it too much, just because it's more of like a natural thing for me at this point. And I use the word drifting kind of with some enthusiasm, if you will. It's like I'm not actually a professional drifter going around a track. I like to slide corners and get some figure eights in there, or just have fun. Really, the biggest thing is that you're going to have fun and
be
and
safe.
you will be safe. Yes.
Yeah.
And you will have those moments where you're going to be close to breaking something on your vehicle. You're going to be close to crashing your vehicle, but it's all about where you're doing it and how careful you're being, and how well you know your vehicle is the main thing. You want to know kind of where the tires are going to break loose, where your full lock is at is a very, very important thing to know.
Steering lock, when you hit the bumper and you can't steer anymore.
Exactly. So you want to be, you just want to take it slow. You don't want to go out there and dump the clutch and just mash the gas full throttle.
Burn through your clutch.
Yeah. So AJ brought up a great point. You're gonna break things, and that's how it is. You're really
What's
gonna
at
break
risk
things.
of breaking?
Let's see.
What should you expect if you go out every weekend? What should you expect to be replacing?
So you should expect to be, first thing that comes to mind is axles. You're gonna break axles. The things that connect your differential to your wheels.
Which it sounds scary, but an axle's like $200. If you do
$200,
the work
$300,
yourself,
yeah.
like the part is like $200. It's not crazy.
If you're gonna be out there drifting, I would prefer somebody to be able to work on their own car.
Yeah.
Have their own resources to work on their own car.
Or a big checkbook.
Or a big checkbook.
One or the other.
Yeah, I mean, really, and because you will break things. If you hit a curb, you're gonna break a wheel. You're gonna break suspension components like a lower control arm, a strut, tie rod ends, etc. And you will burn through tires. Tires aren't cheap when they add up. I have very cheap tires on my car, and
Because of this.
because
That's
of
the whole
this,
idea.
yeah. And I don't, I don't need grip because I don't want grip.
So grip, you were talking about dirt. Rain
Yes.
is a great one to start.
Rain, yes, starting out.
Plus, it's easier on your tires. You lose less rubber.
Yes.
Yeah.
So rain, I love when it rains, which is very rare here in the central coast of California.
Yeah.
Which is great, but also for me, it's not that great because I love when it rains. You get less tire wear or tread wear, if you will, and your car, it's way easier on the drivetrain components of your vehicle, just because like dirt, it's allowing the tires to break free easier. So I think when it rains, that would be a great time to go and practice, just like get the feel for it, let the clutch out and turn the wheel and just, really feel when that car is going to break loose.
So what about location? Because ideally, the better you get, the smaller of a spot you'll need, right?
Exactly.
But to start out, you want to be in a probably 1,000 square foot area, probably even bigger than that.
Yeah, you want to
1,000
be
square feet's not that
as
big.
big of an area in the area that you live that you can find.
Right.
That's smooth and that there's no obstacles blocking anywhere,
Including traffic. You don't.
Yeah, you don't want to
obviously,
be blocking traffic those.
if you're on an open and public road, that is no go.
Yeah, no, I'm all for having fun. I'm all for burning some rubber, but those street takeovers are just not
safe.
Not safe at all.
And it ruins it for everybody else.
It does.
Really
does.
Because then officers are more likely to hand out tickets or whatever.
Yeah, hand out tickets. Or I've heard a lot of states are taking you straight to jail for reckless driving, and they will crush your vehicle, no questions asked.
Yeah,
so
it's
your
pretty
vehicle, your baby, will go straight through a crusher, no questions asked.
So don't screw around. It's not a joke.
Exactly.
I want you to have fun, but your safety and everybody else's safety matters, and also the legality of it. So
yeah. And just being safe and having fun is the main two things. You really just want to take your time with it. Don't rush. You're gonna have times where it just doesn't work out. You found a spot, but it's a place that's busy on a couple days of the week, and you just gotta watch out for things like that. People people will hate you for it. They're gonna flip you off. They're gonna be angry. They're gonna call the police. You know, that's why you just have to be careful and do it.
Do dangerous things carefully.
Exactly.
Yeah, like be safe, but you got to do it. Things like hobbies like this are just dangerous. There's just no way around it, but you just got to do dangerous things carefully. Like if skydivers still skydive, they just do it carefully.
Exactly, yeah.
So
you want to take precautions. Oh, speaking of precautions, make sure you check your oil, check your coolant. You want to stay on top of those things if you're going to beat on your car. This car in particular has 225,000 miles, and it still runs like a champ, like you see in the video. It just burns rubber, and it runs good because I stay on top of things like my fluids, my spark plugs, belts and hoses, all that type of things. You know, you don't want to neglect your car because that's what's in reality going to be breaking. And, you know, obviously there's some things you can't avoid, like an axle breaking or a drive shaft twisting or a U-joint popping off or, you know, things like that. One time I actually did blow up first gear in my transmission. And I had to put a new transmission in my car, which actually I found a really good deal. I got a used transmission for $600. And the place where I work at is kind enough to let me use their car lifts after hours, and I was able to just put a transmission in my car.
you weren't even like, you were just driving home, weren't you?
Yeah, and that's the thing is I beat on my car regularly, but that time in particular, I was just driving home from actually my high school graduation party. Well, it was my buddies.
Really?
It was Hayden.
Yeah.
I was going up this hill right out of his house, and you know, just cruising up the hill. My buddy was in the passenger seat, and you know, just cruising first gear. You know, getting some speed, about 3,000 RPM. I was just about to go to shift, and I just hear boom, and the RPMs shoot up, and you know, I'm like, holy crap! Put it in neutral. You know, I'm still rolling because I don't want to stop in the middle of the road. But, you know, I'm only doing 25 miles an hour. Go to put it in first, you know, let the clutch out. Nothing. RPM's just going up. And so I was, you know, put it in second. Thankfully, second gear was still there. So I was like, screw it. We're up in, you know, we're 30 miles from my house.
Right.
And, you know, I'm like, man, I got to make it home. And I was tripping out the whole way. I called my dad. I'm like, hey, have the trailer ready. I might break down on the way home. He's like, cool. And, you know, I was good. I made it. And I actually drove without first gear for probably about 8 months. I drove without first gear.
I remember that. I remember that. Yeah.
And I was just starting in second, and it ended up burning my clutch.
Yeah. Did you replace your clutch too?
I did, yes. Yeah. No, my clutch was slipping really bad.
Yeah.
I couldn't even make it over the grade. It would just slip, and I was like, "Oh, dude, this is bad." But yeah, I think it's worth it though. Just for me personally, just the adrenaline and the, you know, the ability to be filmed by my best friend AJ, and like, you know, it's just so much fun, and I wouldn't trade anything for it. You know,
it's a good hobby.
It is a good hobby.
Let's circle back to all-wheel drive.
Okay.
So all-wheel drive.
Yeah, all-wheel drive. So basically, all-wheel drive. My friend Cody actually has an all-wheel drive Subaru, which I'm pretty sure they all are all-wheel drive.
I think so.
Yeah.
Aren't the Chargers all-wheel drive too? At least the new ones are.
They have they have Dodge Chargers that are all-wheel drive.
Right.
It's an option that you can get. I actually saw them the other day. It was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
But an all-wheel drive vehicle means that all 4 of the tires will be spinning at all times. It's all time. Or just all-wheel drive. It's just all-time, all wheels driving. So it's not the same where on a dry day in sunny California, you can just pull up, you know, to an empty lot and, you know, let the clutch out, you know, rev it up, let the clutch out, and think that the rear end's going to break out. Probably not. I have seen it done with like 600 to 800 horsepower all-wheel drive cars. It's doable, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
And you know, it's one of those things where.
And then you don't even have the option for the McDonald's trays.
Yeah. No, you don't.
Because then they will just.
Yeah. No, you have 0 options for that. So, it's just one of those things. If you live in a snowy area, you can go to like a snowy lot, and just like let the clutch out, and you know, it's a lot different of a technique, but it's more of like it's harder really. Just because it's weird, because you want to counter steer, but all that's going to do, since those front wheels are driving, all it's going to do is bring the car in a weird direction. Right. So a lot of it is actually steering into it and keeping the wheel straight, steering in, straight, steering in. You know, every now and then, of course, you'll have to counter steer if you're starting to really loop out. But and it's also, you don't let off of the gas. Like in a rear-wheel drive car,
you have to keep it in there in order to keep, otherwise they will regain traction constantly.
Exactly.
And then, you know, when you're sliding a little bit to the right and all of a sudden you gain traction, you're like, and you go straight towards the curb or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you're new, it's probably going to be, you probably shouldn't.
No, and you will break more things in an all-wheel drive car because you have a transfer case and front axles to worry about.
Yep, and two differentials.
Two differentials.
So.
And a lot of that stuff is more expensive because just is really. Yeah, but if you do have an all-wheel drive car and you really do want to try and drift, I would recommend, if you live in a snow area, wait till it snows, or if it is snowing, go to a big parking lot and just feel it out.
Not much snow. We're talking a little bit of snow.
Yeah,
but
you know, just somewhere where it's slick, and you know, or if you're able to find a smooth dirt lot somewhere. You're gonna chip up your paint, but if you don't really care that much, you can go there too.
So remember when we were talking about dirt, like you will screw up your paint. So drifting is not for, I don't drift Squeaks because she's in pretty good condition. She's not mint, but she's in really good condition. And you know, I daily this car still, so I don't want to screw it up. I don't want to get chips, or you know, and I don't want to break crap. But yeah, so drifting is really, it's not for the faint of heart when it comes. Like if you absolutely adore your car, don't do it. Not worth it.
Which, don't get me wrong, I love my car, but I already know
it's for that purpose though.
It's got its dings, it's got its dents, you know, it's got its paint chips, and that's just how it is. And so tires, again, basically you want to really check your tire pressures. That has a lot to do, you know, with how easy the tires are going to spin. When you have more pressure, the contact patch is going to be less so the actual amount of the tire that's touching the road, you're not really going to notice it too much with your eyes, but scientifically it is true that less of the contact patch will be contacting the road if your pressures are higher in your tire. So say you have like a Miata or like a Nissan 240 with a little four-banger that barely makes any power, and you want to go out and slide, I would recommend putting your tires up to like 45 or 50 PSI. I wouldn't really go more than that, because then you risk blowing up your tire if you get it too hot.
Because they heat up quicker. There's more air in there to heat up and expand.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it depends on the tire. But
does,
40, you know, it's pretty.
Yeah, I would say start at 40 and see how it gets you.
Yeah.
So yeah, just
obviously
check your tire pressures.
Never go above max pressure.
Yeah,
and also
you will be going above max pressure if you go to 50, because most 90% of sedan rated tires are going to be a 44 max pressure, although they can go up to 80 to 100 easily. But
it's just a safety
hazard. Yeah.
Like a safety net.
If a tire does explode on you, there is a risk it will damage your car. It will. I have it firsthand on my Chrysler 300. The tire exploded and it messed up my quarter panel, and there's nothing you can do about it except for not explode your tire for getting it too hot. It actually caught on fire. It's pretty crazy. That's why my bumper's all charred up.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, tire caught on fire, exploded, and messed up my quarter panel, and now it's going to cost me thousands of dollars to fix.
Or you just don't, and you drift it next weekend.
That too, which is probably what I'll end up doing. All right, so another big thing is a handbrake. You're going to look up videos on YouTube and see Adam LZ and all these big drifting guys using their handbrake a whole bunch. And I would advise you to stay away from the handbrake as much as you can until you actually get a reliable handbrake setup, or you just really know how to use it. For me, I don't think I'm good enough yet to even use my handbrake. I barely even use the foot brake, just because I'm modulating the gas pedal enough to be able to rotate the car more or less. And I barely even use the foot brake. And the handbrake, all it's going to do is you're going to not press your clutch in time and yank the e-brake and stall the engine or break something.
Break your e-brake.
Break your e-brake even. And
most of those guys, explain the difference between a hydraulic e-brake and a regular e-brake.
So there's a difference. So you have a hydraulic e-brake, which has a...
Wait, hold on. Let's back up. So remember that the brakes in your car are hydraulic, right? So when you push on the gas pedal, it's compressing your syringe, basically a syringe in the master cylinder.
Yeah, basically.
Right?
Like a plunger more.
Like a plunger, yeah, right. And then it increases the pressure of the brake fluid that's in your lines, which forces the pads to be compressed together on a disc. That disc is spinning at the same rate with your tire. So if you slow down the disc, you're going to slow down your tire.
Exactly.
You have disc brakes around all modern cars, modern being even back to like pretty much the 60s or whenever they stopped doing drum brakes.
Most cars.
Some trucks have drum brakes still. But anyway, you have disc brakes on all 4 of your wheels. Now, your front disc brakes are doing most of the heavy lifting because as you're going forward down the road and you apply pressure on your brakes, that momentum is going to keep traveling, so your car lurches forward a little bit. So when you continue pressing the brake, most of the braking pressure is going to have to happen in the front because all that weight is being shifted forward.
Yeah.
So an emergency brake in most cars, I think, all cars, is only the rear tires.
Yeah, I would say like 95% of the cars on the road.
So that emergency brake, or really a parking brake in a manual car, it's an emergency brake in an automatic car. It's a parking brake in a manual
parking brake, it's all the same. Parking brake, emergency brake.
But remember that it works differently. It's not compressing those. It's not compressing those pads on that disc. It actually has what's called a shoe. So inside that disc, there's
I'm gonna stop you right there. So there are 2 different styles. There is the shoe style. So it's basically like a drum brake where you pull or press your e-brake, preferably if you're going to be sliding.
Don't use a foot one.
Don't use a foot one because you're going to have to reach down and grab the
don't do that.
thing, and it's going to be a mess, and you don't want to even mess with that. If your car has a foot e-brake, I wouldn't even really slide that car because it's probably not a great car to slide.
Yeah.
But anyway, it all works the same. There are 2 styles. So it's very similar to a drum brake, where in the actual brake rotor, you have the hub, like where it fits over your hub, and
your wheel hub, which is where your brake disc and your tire mount or your wheel mount.
Yeah, so that's where that's basically the main point of contact between your wheel and your suspension is on the hub. That's where the lug studs are. That's where you put your lug nuts onto. It secures the wheel on. And your brake rotor slips over that. And on some cars, there's a series of shoes. And when you press down your e-brake or you pull it up, there's a cable that drives a series of mechanisms that pushes out the e-brake and holds pressure against your rotor. And that keeps the car from moving. The other style is actually, it does go into the caliper, and it does apply hydraulic pressure just by moving the piston. And I see it mostly on like front wheel drive cars, that style at work. And that style would be probably better to use while sliding. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend even using it at all. But it would be more reliable. You're not going to really break. You run the risk of breaking those brake shoes off, and they're going to be rattling around in there and even potentially causing a catastrophic failure within the rotor, and all just a big mess, and it's going to cost you money.
Yeah, the other thing is so let's say you have a regular handbrake, not the foot. You have that little button on the end. You know how you have to push that in to release it? So basically, when you pull that up, you can hear it clicking. It's a ratchet. So it's pulling on that cord, and there's a little star ratchet. So it's going click, 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 and it allows you to set the tension. Well, the thing is, when you're driving, you have to hold, if you're going to use it, you have to hold that button in so that it doesn't ratchet. So you're just basically manipulating the pressure on that cord, which is going to adjust your e-brake. Now, it's going to loosen your cord very quickly.
Yeah, you're going to run
It's going to hurt it's going to hurt the whole system. So when you see Formula Drift or Adam LZ or I don't know what kind of setup those guys are running, but they have that handle, right? Yeah. So they've retrofitted or they've fitted a hydraulic brake. So basically they've they've put an additional little, so basically when they pull on that, they're compressing a syringe.
Yeah.
Or compressing
It's a master cylinder. It's called a master cylinder.
Right.
When you pull on that, it compresses that. It's the same system as your brakes, except for on a separate system. So they're compressing your brake fluid, going to a separate caliper that you've installed in the rear of your vehicle, and it's completely separate from your brake system, your normal braking system, and they call it a dual caliper setup. Right. And it's a separate caliper that has its own system for the e-brake, and it's just a lot more reliable. It's a lot more powerful, and they're able just to grab that, and it just locks.
And it adjusts with, and it's directly correlated to how far you pull the lever is how much pressure you're going to get.
It's the same as your brakes. So you press lightly on your brakes, it's going to stop lightly. If you press hard on your brakes, it's going to stop hard. It's the same system for the hydraulic fluid. It's all fluid, and
it's just the benefit of that, rather than just using because why wouldn't you just use your foot brake? Well, or your regular brake pedal, is because that is only hooked up to the rear tires, and that's what we care about when we're drifting, is because you're controlling the traction of your rear tires. And so if you stop remember, most on your regular braking system, most of your braking power is up front. So if you push your pedal, you're going to stop your forward momentum, because this is going to do most of the work, and then you're going to gain traction and you're not drifting anymore.
Yeah.
So pulling on that lever is going to allow you to brake only the back tires. So you're going to keep that forward momentum, and you're going to keep not having traction.
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is a video for beginners wanting to learn to drift. Once you get all into it, you're going to figure out that you can use your foot brake to really control the vehicle, and if you were to draw it out on a piece of paper, when you use the foot brake, it's going to be like a pendulum. You're going to have grip up front, and it's going to swing that rear end out a little more, and it's going to like your rear tires are driving, and you're driving with both of your feet at this point. So you have foot on the gas, foot on the brake, and the rear tires are driving, and you're slowing down the fronts, and it's going to want to push the rear end around the front. And that's when you get it all technical, and that'll have to be another video for a different day when I am a pro drifter.
Well, you're basically a professional. So remember that skills like this are both an art and a science. And what I mean by that is we can explain to you the science of it, like if you press on the brakes at this time, likely this is going to happen, right? Like there's a series of events or yes or no questions that's going to lead to the same outcome. This is how you start the car, this is how you, start the drift, how you jump the clutch, whatever. But it's also an art in the fact of like, otherwise, if I could just tell you exactly how to drift, then everybody would be like the same level of drifter, right? But it's also an art because there's multiple ways you could do the same thing. There's, there's different ratios of gas and brake you can use, or there's different steering methods you can use. And so that's why, like, if you've ever watched Formula Drift or any sort of like semi-professional drift, is that, two guys might be able to accomplish, especially when they're what do they call that?
Tandem.
When they're doing tandem drifting, they might be able to accomplish near the exact same drift, but they're each doing it slightly differently. So that's why it's like you just got to get out there and do it.
Find your rhythm, find your way, what's
find
comfortable
your car,
for you.
Every car is different.
Yeah, and really, you want to. I can't stress enough. You want to know the limits of your vehicle. You want to know
and your limits.
You're gonna fail. You're gonna have times. Just today, Aiden, you can insert the clip of me almost running into the curb because my hat flew off and I was all it caught me off guard, and I lost focus, and I almost went in the curb. But you saw me take control of the vehicle. You don't want to lock your wheels up and try and steer away. I mean, you do want to steer away, but you just want to, first thing off is slow the vehicle down, and you never want to put yourself in a situation where you're going to be going too fast for the area you're driving in. If you're in a smaller area, which the area I was in, I would consider maybe like a medium to large size area. There's plenty of room out there for you to hoon around and have fun. And it's you just can't be going too fast for the area you're driving in, because you're gonna hit something, you're gonna break stuff, and it's you just want to know your vehicle, how go out there and slam your brakes on and see how fast your car can stop. Obviously safely. Don't go out there on the freeway and slam your brakes on. But go on a back road somewhere and where no one's at, at nighttime or something, and get up to 60 miles an hour and slam the brakes on, and just test your car. Do a 0 to 60. You know, go around some corners a little faster than you normally would. Again, check your tires, check your fluids, check your brakes, because you don't want to have a failure when you're going 100 miles an hour around a corner. You know,
Right.
it's, you know, if you're out there, because I don't just use this car for drifting. I drive back roads. I do everything in this car, and it performs the way I want it to, because I just stay on top of my maintenance. It's so easy to just learn how to work on your own car, to buy a simple wrench set for $50 on Amazon, and you know, and a lug wrench to take your wheels off, and really check your brakes, check your suspension, do a bolt check. There's just so many things you can do to just like minimize the consequences of beating on your car.
Well, and remember that, like, when we talk about we're doing dangerous things carefully, and the way to do dangerous things carefully is be in an environment where it's allowable. So you're not doing this on public roads where there's other traffic that you can hit and hurt somebody or hurt yourself, right?
Yep.
So being in a safe environment, that's the number one thing, has to be a safe environment. But the only way you get better is by pushing your limits.
Yes.
And so, like, you know your limits now, well, you want to increase them, but the idea is you want to push the envelope. That term was coined back in the test flight days of, like, the Bell X1, trying to break the sound barrier, Chuck Yeager and all that crew. Because basically they have a flight envelope of what they think this aircraft that they just designed and built is capable of. And so this envelope is designed, and it's graphed where you've got, like, performance to altitude to whatever other sort of information is on it. So you have a performance envelope of what you're capable of. At this speed, you can take a turn at this fast, or at this, you know, rate of turn, or whatever. So the way you do this dangerous thing carefully to expand your envelope is you only try something a little bit harder than you did previously. You take it 3 miles an hour faster than last time.
Yeah.
Because if you just jump, that's where you get hurt.
Exactly.
And like when I was learning to fly, it was the same thing. Like my instructor, you know, I was learning how to, great story. When I was learning how to land an airplane, you know, I was getting comfortable and I could land just okay, but we were on a 6,000 by 150 foot wide runway. And I just could not stay on the center line. Even though I've got 150 feet, my wheelbase is like 9 feet wide. He's like, get on the center line, get on the center line, get on the center line. I just could not do it. I'd end up 10 feet right, 10 feet left, whatever. And so what he did is he kind of took the guardrails off a little bit. So he said, okay, let's go to a 100 foot by 4,000 foot runway. So then we did that. And I was a little bit closer to center line. And then, you know, we kind of stepped it down until one day he's like, hey, I want you to fly me out to this airport. And I was looking at it. It's like 30 feet or 25 feet wide. I think it was 30 feet by 2,000 feet, which is performance-wise plenty for the Cessna 172 I was flying at the time. But my personal, like, performance profile was like, I was scared. I was like, are you sure? I don't think I can handle that. He's like, trust me, you'll be fine. And so we go out there together, and when your brain doesn't have as much room for failure, it releases different hormones and really gets your adrenaline spiking, and it knows that this is more of a survival situation. You cannot mess up. So this is why elite athletes perform so well, you know, in like those high risk, like if you mess up, you die kind of sports, because you can't mess up. So the only option is to succeed. So we went into that airport, and I just like right on the center line, just perfect. And because since it was only like, I only had 10 feet on each side, if I was 10 feet off like I've been, I'd be off in the dirt, right? So then we went back to the 6,000 foot runway, and it was on the center line every single time. But you have to work it up. So just push it a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, and then eventually your envelope will be, you know, massive.
Exactly. Like, it doesn't. I think we got footage of me doing a figure eight. It's not perfect by any means. Simply because the place I'm in kind of has a couple potholes I want to avoid, and it's mostly excuses. I'm not Adam LZ, okay? But I do have fun, and I know somewhat what I'm doing. But you know, I didn't go out there and just start doing figure eights right away. This is like, you know, I really started kind of taking it seriously only like maybe a year ago. And you know, it took me a few tries out there. I'm not going out to that spot, you know, my spot that I go to, which, you know, my dad introduced me to. We can get into him all day.
We need to do a video of him.
Yeah, we do. But I didn't just go out there and start busting out figure eights. That's something that it's a lot scarier. I want to put a racing seat in my car, because
You can see the video; it's like sliding back and
yeah,
forth,
like
which is not what you want.
Like I'm not a small guy, you know. I'm not massive either, but I'm not a small guy. And in this car, that seat looks like it's gonna rip out of the floorboard, and it's not good. So, and you know, it's not really a seat that hugs you. There's so many little things that go into making, you know, all of it come together, and you can figure it out as you go, and as you keep researching and doing your own research, if you know what I mean, getting out there and letting it rip, like you're gonna find things out that work for you and that don't work for you. Like, you know, I was running more expensive tires at one point in my life, and I realized quickly that I can't do that. And
they burn way faster than you think.
Yeah, and you can search these up. I run the Ironman, I believe they're the Ironman Gen 3 or something. They're cheap and they work. And you know, it's just, it keeps your wallet happy, and it's good. But you just got to get out there and try for yourself, and it's just something that you are gonna love if you're into cars and you have the right equipment. I think it's a lot of fun. So.
Anyway, guys, be safe, have fun. Drifting's a hobby. You got to treat it that way. It's going to cost money. But anyway, thanks for watching. Is it in the car?
I think so.
I was wondering. I was like, oh, I didn't know he was going to turn that way.